Have you ever heard of a spiritual ritual so powerful that for centuries it was considered too dangerous to be taught publicly? Thomas Troward claimed there existed a mental method capable of completely transforming a person's field of prosperity, a set of simple yet spiritually profound practices that awakened the flow of invisible wealth. He called it the ritual of divine correspondence, the exact point where human thought and the universal mind meet. But before we reveal this lost teaching, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and activate notifications. Here we explore the original principles of Thomas Troward, the man who deciphered the hidden structure between spirit and form, mind and matter, thought and wealth. The ritual you are about to discover involves no candles, symbols, or mystical formulas. It happens within the mind, at the silent altar of consciousness. And those who practice it with faith and consistency begin to experience something extraordinary. Money and opportunities start to emerge as if the universe recognized an ancient and sacred command. Thomas Troward said the entire universe is a temple and the human mind is its central altar. Each thought is an offering, and each emotion is an invisible incense rising toward the universal mind. Therefore, he affirmed that the true ritual of prosperity was not created by religions but predates them all. It is the natural way man connects to the creative source, and it was precisely this principle that ended up being forgotten, distorted, and in many cases forbidden. He explained that for centuries, the power of the mind was feared because it meant freedom. A person who understands they can shape reality with thought cannot be controlled. That is why ancient masters taught these principles only to the most prepared disciples. Troward believed the time had come to restore this knowledge and deliver it once again to humanity. He called this the restoration of the law of the living mind. This ritual required nothing external, only the understanding that thought is sacred. Each time the mind turns to good, it makes a spiritual offering to the universe, and this offering is always answered with multiplication. What once seemed a religious mystery reveals itself as the exact operation of a divine law, the correspondence between the visible and invisible. Thomas Troward said the forbidden ritual of prosperity happens entirely within the mind. There are no gestures, objects, or magic words, only a state of consciousness. He taught that each morning upon waking, the mind stands at the threshold between the invisible and visible world. In that instant, thought is pure and malleable, and everything impressed upon it becomes a creative seed. Therefore, the most sacred moment of the day is the first minute of attention. He explained the ritual begins with a simple remembrance. The infinite substance of good is flowing through me now. By repeating this truth with serenity, the mind aligns with the creative flow. Tension dissolves, energy reorganizes, and the vibrational field begins to emit a precise frequency. This frequency is the silent invitation the universe always answers. Troward called this the act of mental consecration. It is the instant when the human being recognizes their unity with the source, and through this remembrance awakens the law. He said, "Whoever practices this small inner reverence in the morning opens the portal of abundance for the entire day, because when the universe is recognized, it responds immediately. Gratitude is the activation signal of the flow." Thomas Troward said the mind is like living wax. Everything impressed upon it takes form. Therefore, the second step of the ritual consisted of engraving a clear and harmonious image of what one desires to manifest. Not an image of lack, but of serene possession. He taught that the universe does not understand requests, it only recognizes mental patterns. And the pattern of prosperity is the calm sensation of already possessing the desired good. He recommended creating for a few minutes a detailed mental image of the state of abundance, visualizing money flowing with ease, bills being paid with joy, projects multiplying. But most important was feeling the emotion of gratitude, as if everything were already accomplished. This sensation is the vibrational seal that activates the creative field. Troward said the mind is the mold, feeling is the fire, and life is the metal that adapts to the form. Therefore, the more love and calm you place in the image, the more perfect the manifestation will be. This is the central point of the ritual, the instant when the invisible begins to become tangible. Faith at this moment ceases to be hope and transforms into certainty. Thomas Troward taught that after imprinting the pattern of prosperity, comes the most sacred moment of the ritual, invocation. But unlike ancient ceremonies, this invocation is not made with external words but with an inner vibration. He said the mind must remain for a few moments in absolute silence, only feeling the living presence of abundance around itself. It is the instant when the self dissolves and the universal mind takes command. In this silence, thought stops asking and begins to recognize. Troward affirmed that good does not need to be called, only recognized. By recognizing the flow, the mind sends an unmistakable signal to the creative field, like a vibrational password the universe identifies immediately. This is the heart of the ritual, the point where faith becomes communion. He explained that by practicing this silent invocation every day, the mind begins to change texture. Fear gives way to serenity, doubt gives place to certainty, and the flow of money responds with synchronicity. Nothing is forced, nothing is manipulated. It is the universe itself that begins to reorganize circumstances to manifest the new pattern. This is the forbidden act of ancient wisdom, the moment when man remembers he is co-creator of creation. Thomas Troward affirmed that no ritual is complete without surrender. After creating, visualizing, and invoking, comes the moment to let go. He said the human mind needs to learn to trust divine intelligence because control is the last illusion preventing manifestation. When a person tries to make it happen, they interrupt the invisible work already initiated. Surrender is faith in action. It is looking at the invisible and saying with serenity, "Now it is done." This simple declaration, repeated with confidence, seals the creative process. It is like sealing a letter and delivering it to the universal post office. You do not need to chase the postman. Just trust the message will arrive at the right destination at the exact time. Troward said, "Anxiety is the denial of the law." Therefore, confident silence is the greatest of rituals. When the human being ceases effort and enters inner rest, the universal mind begins to act with divine precision. At this point, money, opportunities, and help arrive in unexpected ways, because the universe understands that true faith does not ask for proof, it simply allows the flow. Thomas Troward taught that the energy of prosperity needs to move to remain alive. He said money, when retained by fear, loses the spiritual force sustaining it, but when shared with love and purpose becomes a multiplier. Therefore, the last step of the ritual consisted of acting as a channel of good, allowing abundance to flow through oneself in all directions. He explained that giving was not loss but multiplication. The universe never subtracts. It returns amplified everything offered with a pure heart. To give, help, invest, bless, all these are ways of moving the current of wealth. And each generous act is like a spiritual password telling the law, "You can trust me, the flow is free." Troward affirmed the good you retain dies, the good you let flow multiplies. Therefore, generosity was considered the most secret part of the ritual, because only those who truly trust the law allow themselves to give. And it is precisely this silent faith that attracts the return doubled. The instant you make good circulate, the universe recognizes the mind is aligned with its infinite nature and nothing will be lacking. Thomas Troward explained the ritual of prosperity was called forbidden, not because it was evil, but because it was too powerful. It returned to people dominion over their own reality, and this threatened structures based on fear and dependence. For centuries, spiritual and political leaders preferred people to believe power was outside rather than inside. But Troward said this was the greatest lie ever told to humanity. He affirmed the mind is the extension of the divine mind, and to deny this is to deny divinity itself. Therefore, teaching people to think creatively was for many a threat. One who understands mental law does not bow to despair, does not fear scarcity, and does not accept limitation as destiny. And such a person is too free to be manipulated. Troward said ignorance is the only slavery. Wisdom is the only priesthood. The ritual was hidden because it awakens spiritual autonomy. It returns to man the throne of his own inner kingdom. And when the mind returns to occupy this place, the outer world must reorganize, because abundance becomes inevitable, and no one can control a mind that learned to create. Thomas Troward said, "The true purpose of the ritual is not to change the world, but to re-educate the mind." He taught that 95% of life is controlled by the subconscious, a field of old memories, inherited beliefs, and forgotten emotions. While this field remains full of fear and guilt, the person will continue creating scarcity even while repeating words of prosperity. Therefore, the ritual served to re-record the unconscious with the pattern of good. Each calm repetition of a positive idea was like a drop that, with time, changes the texture of stone. The deep mind began to accept the new command, and the old pattern dissolved. Troward explained it was not hypnosis, but spiritual authority, the spirit commanding matter. And when the subconscious aligns with higher consciousness, the result is infallible. He said the habit of thinking is God's tool within you. The ritual, therefore, is daily training of silent power. It is the exercise of exchanging faith in fear for faith in the law. And when the subconscious mind becomes an ally, the entire universe collaborates, because the outer world is nothing more than the universal subconscious, responding to your new vibration. Thomas Troward affirmed, no outer result is chance. The money that arrives, the unexpected client, the ideal job, everything is a reflection of re-established mental harmony. He explained that when the ritual is practiced with consistency, life begins to reorganize itself. Things that seemed blocked for years unlock naturally, because the invisible field finally finds free passage to flow. Troward said the universe never denies anything. It only waits for the signal of readiness. And this signal is peace. When the mind calms, the creative field enters action. The right ideas emerge, coincidences increase, and even time seems to cooperate. Nothing is random, everything is direct response to the dominant vibration. He reminded that good does not come by effort, but by attunement. Therefore, the most powerful transformation happens in silence. People around perceive the change, but cannot explain it. They feel the different energy, the confidence, the lightness. It is the invisible power of the ritual becoming visible in every detail of life. And the more natural this state becomes, the more constant the flow of prosperity. Thomas Troward said true prosperity is the consciousness of union with spirit. Money is just a reflection, one of the many forms by which life expresses its love. But when man clings only to form, he forgets the source and the flow begins to dry. The ritual of prosperity served exactly to restore this communion, remembering that the purpose of wealth is to manifest God's good in the world. He explained each thought of gratitude is a silent prayer, and each wise use of money is an act of practical worship. Spirituality is not separated from abundance, it is its core. Therefore, Troward said, wealth without consciousness is just weight, but wealth with love is service. When money circulates under the direction of the illuminated mind, it transforms into collective blessing. He taught that spirit does not desire poor followers, but conscious co-creators. Poverty is not virtue, it is forgetfulness of the law. And each time man awakens to his unity with the divine, the universe hastens to provide what is lacking, because prosperity is the natural form of life, the original state of the soul in harmony with the mind of God. Thomas Troward taught that man was not created to serve money, but to govern it with wisdom. He said the human mind is the link between spirit and the physical world, and when this link is restored, matter returns to obeying consciousness as always planned. The ritual of prosperity was therefore training in spiritual authority. The mind learned to place itself again at the center, from which all creation emanates. He explained that by mentally affirming, I am the free channel of divine wealth, the person is not asking but commanding. It is a silent decree of alignment, a reminder that nothing is impossible for the law. And the law, like a perfect servant, fulfills exactly what is commanded. Troward said matter is only spirit at reduced speed. Therefore, whoever masters the mind masters form. Money becomes obedient, opportunities adjust, and life returns to dancing in the rhythm of harmony. This is true magic, not that which manipulates external forces, but that which awakens the inner divine power. When man speaks with the voice of faith, the universe listens to him as its reflection. Thomas Troward said the final objective of the ritual is not money, but awakening. He taught that when the mind perceives it is a living extension of universal intelligence, all struggle ceases. The person stops seeking outside what always existed inside. This recognition transforms the human being into a transparent channel. Spirit passes through him without resistance. He explained the illuminated mind is like a clean mirror. It reflects only good. There is no fear, because fear is only shadow. There is no scarcity, because scarcity is only forgetfulness. When consciousness remembers its divine origin, prosperity becomes its natural expression. Troward said spirit does not repeat itself, it expands. Therefore, each new thought of faith amplifies creation. Life becomes a continuous movement of revelations and blessings. The awakened man understands abundance is his permanent state, and nothing can be lost. He no longer tries to attract prosperity. He lives as prosperity itself incarnated. Thomas Troward affirmed the mind is the instrument, but love is the fuel of creation. Reason traces the path, but it is love that makes it alive. He said the ritual of prosperity reaches its fullness when mind and heart work together, because love is the force that dissolves all resistance. When thought is loving, the universe opens without effort. He explained mental law is precise but impersonal. Love, however, gives direction and purpose to the law. Without love, power becomes cold. With love, it becomes sacred. Therefore, Troward said money, when blessed, becomes a servant of kindness. It carries comfort, sustenance, and joy wherever it passes. It is spirit manifesting compassion through form. He summarized thus: the law creates, love distributes. And it is at this point the forbidden ritual reveals its true name. It is not magic, it is communion. The human being and the divine cease to be two and become one single flow. Everything given returns multiplied, because love transforms the universe into a mirror of good. And man discovers the greatest wealth is being the channel through which divine love circulates freely. Thomas Troward said nothing truly is lost in the divine mind. It only sleeps until rediscovered. The forbidden ritual of prosperity never disappeared. It just waited for the right moment to be remembered. That moment is now. Each person who awakens to creative consciousness reactivates an ancient current. The spiritual lineage of those who understand thought is prayer and faith is power. You are part of this rebirth. Troward taught the final secret is daily practice. There is no imposition, only consistency, remembering unity, imprinting good, invoking in silence, surrendering with faith, and making good circulate. This is the true ritual, simple, eternal, and powerful. Whoever practices it does not ask for prosperity but manifests it, does not seek signs but lives in peace. And now, if this message touched something in you, like this video, subscribe to the channel and share with those who need to remember their own spiritual power. Each awakened mind reignites the knowledge the world tried to erase. And as Thomas Troward said, when man knows the law and uses it with love, nothing is impossible for him. This is the call for you to assume your role, to be the conscious channel of divine abundance. Because the true ritual is not in words, but in the way you choose to think every day.